Did you know that one of the most revered goddesses in Greek mythology, a symbol of the harvest, fertility, and the earth's generosity, harbors a secret so dark that it almost led the world to collapse? What if I told you that this secret isn't just tied to her pain as a mother, but also to her fury as a goddess? Stick with me, because today you're going to uncover the dark truth behind the story of Demeter, the goddess of the harvest, and what she was capable of doing to rescue what she loved most in this world. Take a moment and subscribe to the channel to follow the best stories from Greek mythology. Before being called a goddess, Demeter was a living archetype of Mother Earth herself. Daughter of the Titans Cronus and Rhea, she was born with a sacred mission to keep life pulsing in the fields, renew the cycle of the seasons, and ensure that no seed died in vain. When Cronus was overthrown by Zeus, his own son, Demeter became one of the 12 divinities of Olympus. But unlike her belligerent or celestial siblings, she didn't rule the sky, the sea, or the underworld. She reigned over what grows and what nourishes. Her touch made vineyards sprout. Her tears fell like beneficial rain, and her presence in the forests and valleys was felt like a mother's warmth. Among humans, she was the most adored. In every corner of Greece, her names echoed in the golden fields, and her symbol, the sheaf of wheat, was synonymous with life. But none of this made her untouchable by pain. Demeter had a daughter, Persephone. The fruit of a brief union with Zeus, Persephone was her joy, her light, her inseparable companion. Where Demeter went, Persephone followed, and the earth responded with more flowers, more fruits, more abundance. The connection between mother and daughter was so profound that it seemed unbeatable. But it was precisely this love that would become her greatest downfall. Because there was a god in the shadows who also saw Persephone, a god who desired for himself that which represented life. Hades, the lord of the underworld, fell hopelessly in love with the young woman and plotted to take her without permission. And on a certain day, when the flowers were still dancing around Persephone and the song of the nymphs filled the air, the earth opened up. A chasm tore open before the young woman's feet, and from there, with his black chariot, arose Hades. In a matter of seconds, Persephone was snatched to the underworld. The laughter ceased, the flowers withered, and the earth trembled in silence. Demeter didn't witness the kidnapping, but the instant her daughter disappeared, something inside her broke. The goddess who made the world stop. When Persephone disappeared, Demeter felt it, not with her eyes, but with her body. The wheat stopped growing, the dew didn't fall in the morning, and the song of the cicadas, formerly a symbol of summer, ceased suddenly. The goddess, who was a symbol of balance, fell into disarray. In the first days, Demeter wandered through the fields, calling her daughter's name to the wind. With each step, a season withered. The trees stopped bearing fruit. The rivers ran slower. The leaves dried up before their time. She disguised herself as a mortal woman and walked through the cities, the temples, the forests, but nobody knew, nobody saw, no offering calmed her pain. Even the gods of Olympus felt her withdrawal, but Zeus, Persephone's father, remained silent. He knew of the alliance with Hades. He knew of the abduction, but he hoped that everything would resolve itself with time. It was a mistake, because the more the days passed, the more Demeter transformed. the goddess of the harvest gave way to the goddess of abandonment.
She stopped feeding the earth. She refused to make life flourish. And what was a personal mourning became a global threat. Famine spread. The crops withered. The humans begged the gods, but Demeter was silent. Only her pain spoke, and it spoke through ice, infertility, emptiness. But something even more powerful grew within her, an unwavering desire for justice. Demeter, in her mortal form, arrived at the city of Eleusis. There, she was welcomed by a royal couple who didn't know who she was. In exchange for hospitality, Demeter offered to care for their son, little Demophon. But what seemed like a gesture of kindness hid a divine plan. Demeter wished to make the boy immortal. Every night, she anointed him with ambrosia and placed him over the sacred fire, slowly burning away his mortality. Until, on one of those nights, the boy's mother entered the room and saw the scene. In panic, she screamed, and at that instant, Demeter revealed who she was. Enveloped in golden light, hair like ripe ears of corn, eyes like a storm, she stood before the human family and announced, "You don't know what you've lost, because the whole world has already begun to lose." From that day on, a temple was erected in her honor in Eleusis. But neither offerings, nor prayers, nor promises of adoration appeased her suffering. Demeter continued to fast, the earth continued in silence, and the cold began to take over the lands that were once fertile. Zeus finally realized if he didn't do something, all of humanity would disappear. That's when he sent Hermes, the messenger of the gods, to the underworld. His destination, to negotiate with Hades. Because a mother had stopped the world, the fruit of the underworld, and only a reunion could make it spin again. While the earth agonized in silence, Hermes descended to the shadowy realms. He carried with him not only a message, but an ultimatum. If Persephone doesn't return, the world of the living will cease to exist. Not even the gods will have anyone to rule over. In the underworld, time is still, the air is dense, and the eyes see no light. But there, on the black throne next to Hades, was Persephone. More pale, more serious, transformed. What began as an abduction had turned into a bond. She was no longer just Demeter's daughter. She was now also the queen of the shadows. But her heart still beat for the world of the surface. When Hermes revealed Zeus's proposal that she could return to her mother and restore the balance of the earth, Persephone felt her chest tremble. She wanted to return. She needed to return. But Hades, cunning, had one last trick. Before the young woman left the underground palace, he offered her a pomegranate, 7 seeds. An apparently simple gesture, but in the world of the gods, nothing is casual. Because whoever eats of the fruits of the underworld can never leave it completely. Persephone accepted. She ate. 7 sweet seeds, red as blood, round as the cycle of eternity. And so, when she returned to the surface and was finally reunited with Demeter in an embrace that made the fields flourish in the blink of an eye, a new reality emerged. The reunion was real, but the separation also. Zeus, the mediator of destinies, imposed a new order. Persephone would live half the year with her mother on the surface when the earth would flourish in joy and abundance, and the other half she would return to Hades as queen of the underworld, when the world would plunge again into cold, silence, and recollection.
That's how the seasons were born. When Persephone is with Demeter, the fields flourish. Life sprouts, the sun warms, nature sings. Spring and summer. But when she leaves, Demeter's heart closes. The leaves fall, the fruits cease, the winds become cold. Autumn and winter. An eternal cycle, a mother who gives life and who, every year, needs to learn to let it go. The sacred mysteries of Demeter. Demeter's pain gave rise to time. Her loss became an invisible clock that marked the cycle of life. But her story went beyond the gods. In the city of Eleusis, where she had lived as a mortal, arose a cult so sacred, so profound that even today, nobody knows its complete details. The mysteries of Eleusis. For centuries, men and women made pilgrimages in silence, walking for entire nights with torches in their hands, repeating the steps of the goddess in search of the lost daughter. It was more than a ceremony. It was a spiritual journey. The initiates fasted for days, left behind their names, their possessions, their certainties, and then, upon arriving at the Telesteron, the great sacred hall, they participated in a ritual so transformative that it was said, "Whoever has seen the mysteries no longer fears death." What happened inside there was never revealed. The oaths were eternal, the silence absolute. But legends say that the initiates experienced the very story of Demeter and Persephone, that they died symbolically, that they descended to the underworld, that they tasted the pain of loss, and then they were reborn. The cult celebrated female power, fertility, the cycles of the earth and of the body. It was a religion of real life, of harvests and emotions, but also an initiation into the acceptance of death, not as an end, but as a return. Demeter was no longer just the goddess of agriculture. She had become the guardian of rebirth. Many believe that the mysteries were the precursors of modern ideas about the soul, reincarnation, and eternity. Others say that they merely translate what nature already tells us in silence every year, that everything dies to be reborn, that everything that leaves one day returns. And that was the true miracle of Demeter. She didn't prevent death. She didn't undo suffering, but she taught us to transform pain into wisdom. The harvest, after all, only comes after the waiting time. And in the heart of every mother, of every woman, of every earth, there is a Demeter asleep, waiting for the right moment to flourish again. The goddess who lives in every cycle. Demeter never disappeared. Even after the ancient cults were silenced, even when the temples fell into ruins, even with the oblivion imposed by new gods and new times, Demeter remained. She is alive in the wheat that germinates after winter, in the woman who cares for the earth with her own hands, in the mother who every year needs to let go of her child's hand to see them grow. She lives in the fertile womb, in the intuition that flourishes in silence, in the body that aligns with the rhythms of the moon. Demeter is the earth pulsing beneath our feet, reminding us that everything that dies returns to life in another form. And her archetype remains powerful. She is the mature feminine, the woman who has already lost, but who still continues, the force that welcomes, but that also sets limits, the love that feeds, but that also paralyzes when wounded. In modern eras, the myth of Demeter has gained new interpretations. Psychoanalysts see her as the image of the archetypal mother, the one who nurtures but also needs to let go. Spiritualists see her as the guardian of the wheel of life, of the eternal cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. Farmers still invoke her, even without knowing it, every time they plant with hope. And in many contemporary traditions of female spirituality, she represents the point of transition between the woman who generates and the woman who liberates, between the mother and the elder, between the summer that warms and the autumn that prepares the silence. Because Demeter is this: the fertile silence, the emptiness full of wisdom, the necessary pause before the next spring. And perhaps more than a distant goddess, she is a mirror, an invitation to remember that everything in life has its time, that nothing flourishes all year round, that it is necessary to welcome the pain, to allow the winter, so that life may return renewed. When we cry for something we have lost, we are touching the sacred. When we accept the waiting, we are treading the same path that Demeter walked. And when we finally bloom again, it's because she whispered in our heart, "It's time." The echo of Demeter within us. The myth of Demeter is not just a story of the past. It is a hidden map of the soul, an ancient wisdom that whispers in the depths of our being every time we face a loss, every time we wait, every time we are reborn. How many times, like Demeter, have you walked through the world aimlessly, looking for something that was taken from you? How many times have you felt the cold inside, the silence in the days, the absence of color, as if even the nature had stopped? But also, how many times after the pain have you flourished? This is the promise of the goddess, that winter is not punishment, it is preparation, that mourning is not weakness, it is profound fertility, that everything we love, even if it goes, leaves seeds. Demeter teaches us that true power lies not in controlling life, but in caring for it while it is here, and accepting the cycle when it departs. She teaches us to bless the return, but also to honor the absence. And perhaps that is why her legend survives for millennia, because it speaks of something that we all live in all eras, in all bodies. Now tell me honestly, have you ever lived Demeter? Have you felt the weight of a loss so great that the world seemed to stop? Right here in the comments, your story can touch other people who are going through the same season. And if this journey through the myth of Demeter has touched you, made you think, or brought some comfort to your soul, leave your like, share this video with someone who also needs to hear this, and subscribe to the channel to continue exploring with me the deepest mysteries of Greek mythology. In the next videos, we will dive into other stories of goddesses, heroes, and archetypes that even millennia later still live within us. Because Olympus is not in the sky, it is in the human soul. And Demeter never stopped blooming.